Okay. Dear colleagues and dear students, we're very happy and honored to Bilgi University. A very special thanks goes to our organizers for this event, Bilgi Entrepreneurs Club. So as we all know, Sheryl Sandberg is the CEO of Facebook, but she also worked as an executive at Google before. She served as the chief of staff at the US Treasury Department, but she's also the author of this book, Lean In. Probably you all know about the book, which is currently translated into Turkish as well. So Lean In is an autobiographical book where she talks about the hurdles she had to go through to survive and succeed in the business world as a woman, and how she finally broke the glass ceiling. But she's also the founder of leanin.org. It's a non-profit foundation. We have these like self-organized groups called Lean In Circles. We just met one downstairs, so there's one group in Turkey as well. So these groups gather together and use materials provided by the foundation and share stories of leaning in. So I've heard like men are stepping into these circles as well. Is that right? So that's also very exciting. But before I invite our guests to the podium, I would like us to take a moment and ponder women's condition in Turkey. So as in many parts of the world, Turkish women also lag behind Turkish men. But some socio-cultural practices and restricted professional advancement add to Turkish women's predicament. So as most of you probably know, only 29% of adult women are in the workforce. But women's share of legislators and senior officers is only 10%. Another very striking number is that about 30% of Turkish women are forced to marry before they turn 18, which keeps them out of the workforce. And again, unfortunately, Turkey ranks 120th out of 136 countries in the Gender Gap Index. So Turkish women definitely should start leaning in. Ladies and gentlemen, Sheryl Sandberg. Round of applause.
Thank you. So it is, my mic on? Yeah, okay, light. Oops, okay. It is great to be here today. Thank you all for coming. I want to thank the chairman of the Board of Trustees, who I know is here today. So one of the problems with speaking at universities, which I now do pretty frequently, is it makes me feel really old, which is pretty similar to working at Facebook. At Facebook, and I'm not exaggerating, every so often, pretty frequently, someone walks up to me and says, "Can you try this? We need to know how old people will use this feature." It's unbelievable. People, Mark including, Zuckerberg, our founder, have looked at me and said, "What was it like being in college without the internet?" As if there were horses and buggies. No horses and buggies. I really want to thank all the men who are here today. Gloria Steinem, who is the most famous American feminist, says that if you're a man and you show up to just one event like this, just one, when the inevitable revolution happens, you're going to get a pass. So this is a brilliant use of an hour for all of you. I'm not an expert on Turkey. I'm here to learn. But what I do know is that there's an amazing similarity for women all over the world, which is that leadership is predominantly male all over the world. My daughter, when she was 4 years old, I played a tape for her, a song of all the American presidents. And she listened to the song and she looked up and she said, "Mommy, why are they all boys?" You have had a female prime minister, you've had one. We've never had a female president in the United States. But in all the countries in the world, there are only 18 that are currently run by a woman. If you look at the top companies in the world, including the Vista 100 here, 4% are run by women. What worries me about this is that we're so accepting of the status quo. And we celebrate these really small achievements for women as if they're enough. In the United States, in the last election, women won 20% of the seats in the US Senate, 20%. And the headlines all over were, Women take over the Senate. 50% of the population having 20% of the seats is not a takeover. What I want us all to understand is that this hurts all of us. This hurts our economic growth. Countries cannot grow as quickly without using the full talents of the population. If you look at what's happening in Turkey, and Turkey has been a phenomenal growth story, and you look to the future, with 28 or 29% of women in the workforce, Turkish growth will be impeded. Economic growth depends on the full talents of the workforce, and that is super important. Stability of any society. One of the great marks for stability and security in a society is its treatment of its women. Our companies, our nonprofits, our governmental agencies, if you can use the full talents of the population rather than just half, your company will be more successful. Your team will be more successful. Warren Buffett, who I think is very famous everywhere, yes, the great American investor, has said that one of the reasons he was so successful is because he was only competing with half the population. It's still the case that when we go to compete, we're using half the population, and that needs to change. The lean-in conversation, the conversation around women, is so important everywhere in the world, and a lot needs to change. Governments need to change, public policy needs to change, institutions need to change. But in addition, and really importantly, there are things individuals can do. So I'm going to focus today on three things. Three things that everyone here can be a part of, that all of us can change in our own lives and our own society. The first is that we need to address the stereotypes that hold everyone back. I've now been all over the world with Lean In and my book, and cultures are so different. There are such dramatic differences even within Turkey, from Istanbul to some of the eastern parts of the country. Then you compare the culture to the United States, to China, to Korea, to France, all over the world. Such differences in our cultures, except for one thing: gender. Our stereotypes on men and women are exactly the same everywhere in the world. Exactly. Everywhere we think men should lead, men should have voice, men should make decisions. Everywhere we think girls should speak when spoken to, be invited to the table, not sit there, give to others, do the work in the family. We call our little girls bossy. We don't call boys bossy because when a boy leads, it's expected. When we grow up, we call women too aggressive. Yesterday, I gave a speech in Istanbul to about 200-300 business leaders, and I asked a question I've asked every audience I've spoken to. I said, if you're a man, please raise your hand, and we'll do it here for some of the, you have to be in the workforce. It's not really a college question, but if you're a man, please raise your hand if you've ever been told you're too aggressive at work. One hand went up. One. If you're a woman, please raise your hand if you've ever been told you're too aggressive at work. And all the women's hands went up. That's true all over the world. At my wedding, I'm the oldest of 3 siblings. I have a brother and a sister. My brother and sister stood up and said, "Hi, we're Sheryl's younger brother and sister. But we're not really her younger brother and sister. We're really her first employees. Employee 1 and employee 2. Because Sheryl never really played as a child. She just organized other children's play." And it's funny, but that joke wouldn't have been made of a man. These stereotypes cause men and women to be treated very differently. When men and women, or boys and girls, perform at the same level, everyone remembers the men's performance slightly high and the women's slightly low. Study after study of gender-blind admissions improve outcomes for women. So, if you audition orchestra members behind a screen, you hire more women. If you grade papers with no names on them, women get better grades, and so on and so on. Why? Because we systematically bias for men and against women, all of us, men and women alike. We also ascribe success very differently. If you ask a woman why she succeeded, if you ask a man, sorry, why he succeeded, men own their success, and that's a good thing. They think it's because of their own skills. If you ask a woman why she succeeded, she'll say, help from others, getting lucky, someone was calling out, exactly right, chance, you just said, getting lucky, and working hard. Now, those differences are really profound, because if you think you succeeded because of yourself, you can bring yourself to the next opportunity. But if you think you succeeded because you got lucky or someone helped you, that might not show up the next time. So systematically, men apply for jobs, promotions, run for office when they meet some of the criteria. Women, when they meet all of the criteria. My colleague from Facebook is here with me, Charlton, and he told me a story just a few weeks ago. There's an internal job at Facebook. We post our jobs internally and people can apply. And the job called for 4 years of experience. And so a friend of his, who's a woman at Facebook, who's been there 2 years, came to him and said, God, I'm interested in this. I want to figure out what I can do to apply in 2 years when I have the right years of experience. And Charlton looked at her and said, I would just apply now if I were you. They might take you. And that's exactly right. Because of these differences, men systematically have more self-confidence than women. All over the world, when I do meetings, I watch where people sit in the room. At the same level, more men sit at the center and the front, and more women, even when they're just as senior, sit on the side and the back. When I do Q&As, more men ask questions. When it comes to present, more men than women want to present. And what I share in my book is that when I talk about the differences in self-confidence, I'm not just talking about other people, I'm talking about me. So I spent an entire year of my life writing a book telling women to have more self-confidence, among other things. I turned in the book, and when the book was all done, I went to a meeting at Facebook. And there had been a project that for many years, this man, Jay Parikh, and I, we both wanted to do the project, and no one agreed with us. And then over the last couple months before the meeting, everyone decided we were going to do the project. So I talk in my book about bringing your whole self to work. So I'm pretty honest and emotional. So I started out by saying, I am so grateful we're here. Because for all these years, I wanted to do the project, and no one else did. Jay looks up. He says, I knew Sheryl and I were right, and you'd all come around eventually. So later that night, I'm Facebook messaging with Jay. Jay, can I use that story on my book tour? Sure. Jay, can I use your name in that story on my book tour? Absolutely. He's a really nice guy, so I said, Jay, don't worry. I'm not going to make you look egotistical. He said, why would I worry about that? I would never have believed any of those things for myself. The other thing that's happening to women, and it's really important for men and women to understand this, is that women are disliked for success. Everywhere in the world, as men get more successful and powerful, they are liked better because it feeds into our stereotypes. They're supposed to be successful and powerful. Everywhere in the world, as women get more successful and powerful, they are liked less. And this holds us back. There's a woman named Rachel Thomas. She's president of my foundation, the Lean In Foundation. And when she was thinking about taking the job, she talked to her daughter, who was 5 at the time, and she said, Haley, what if I told you that as I do better at work, as Daddy does better at work, more people like him. But when Mommy does better at work, fewer people like me. What would you say? And she thought her daughter would say, that's really unfair. But that's not what her daughter said. Her daughter said, oh, well then I would do less well at work, so more people will like me. There's a famous study done at Columbia University about a woman named Heidi Roizen. It's a Harvard Business School case study about a woman who's a very successful operator who leverages that to become a successful venture capitalist. Some professors at Columbia took the study and they changed it to Howard Roizen. And they gave the study out to men and women in the class. And then they surveyed people to see how they felt about Howard and Heidi. So it turned out Howard's a great guy. Everyone wants to work with him. You want to work for him, with him. Heidi, she's a little out for herself. She's a little political. You're not sure you actually want to work with her. The good news about these stereotypes is we can change them. We can change them today. Today. Every single person sitting in this room can understand this and change how you experience this. There's a man who works for me at Facebook. He started the conversation by saying, I haven't read your book, which is a curious way to start a conversation with one's boss, right? In case you're wondering, he's still employed at Facebook in the same job. And he said, but I have listened to all the things you've said. And so he got feedback that a woman who works for him was too aggressive. And rather than write too aggressive in her performance review, he went back to the people who gave the feedback, men and women, and he said, can I ask you, what did she do that was too aggressive, specifically? And they answered. And he said, if a man had done those same things, would you have thought he was too aggressive? And to a person, they said no. The next time, and it could happen tomorrow, you hear a little girl called bossy, walk up to the person that says it, big smile on your face, and say, that little girl's not bossy. That little girl has executive leadership skills. Second thing we can do, we can ensure equal and fair treatment for women. How women are treated in society is the hallmark of stability. The more stable a country is, the better women are treated. The better women are treated, the more stable a country is. You cannot separate women's rights and human rights. Turkey has been a historical leader in women's rights. Under Ataturk, women got the right to vote in 1934 before France, before Switzerland, before Japan, and other countries. The question Turkey faces right now, and it is particularly important right now, as you all know better than I do, is what happens now. Do we work to ensure equal rights, equal protection? Do we make sure that women have control over their own lives, that women can control their own destiny? Those questions are so important for every society. Everywhere in the world, violence against women is a huge issue. Turkey passed a very important law 2 years ago, and now the opportunity is to enforce that law. More has to be done to protect women in this country. More has to be done to protect women in my country and everywhere in the world. Workforce participation here is plummeting for women. It was in the 40% just 2 decades ago. It's down to something like 28 to 29%. That's going to hold back the economy of Turkey. And like everywhere, providing full access to girls and women for education is so important. Turkey is graduating between 46 to 48% of its women, of its classes in college, are women, and those numbers are going up. That number should be 50% because it's 50% of the population. I think often people think that these challenges are only in one country or another, but they're not. These experiences are universal. And I don't have to tell you how important Turkey is. Turkey has 3 feet in Europe, a little bit of a foot in Asia. What happens with Turkey is not just a major driver of the economy for all of Europe, but it's a major example for so much of the rest of the world, including the part of the world that's Muslim. This really matters, and your leadership will really matter here. Third thing we can do, and get ready for this, we can achieve more balance in our homes. My friend Peggy has a 5-year-old daughter, and her daughter came home from school and said, Mommy, I have a problem. She said, what's the problem? She said, I want to be an astronaut. This is before, like, the United States kind of canceled that program, so that wasn't the problem. She said, well, what's the problem? That's great. And the daughter said, well, the boy I like, he wants to be an astronaut too. And she said, okay. And the 5-year-old girl said, but we can't both go into space. Someone has to watch our kids. I think that will have to be me. The thing about that little girl is she's right, because everywhere in the world, women do the majority of housework and childcare. In the United States, women do 30 to 40% more, even when both people work full-time. In Turkey, women do 3 times. 3 times. In Japan, women do 5 times. We can't get to equality in the workforce until we get to equality in the home. We can't get to equality in the workforce until we change the stereotypes we raise our kids with. My friend Demet Mutlu, I always mispronounce her name, who's the founder of Trendyol and a very successful Turkish businesswoman, talks about her childhood with me. She says when she was growing up, she had way better grades than her male cousins. But every time grandma came, her grandmother would ask her male cousins about their grades and give them computers and gadgets, and ask her about her dresses and give her teacups. And the messages were so clear from her childhood, messages she felt she had to fight against. There are really important reasons for men to do more. When men do more in marriages, those marriages are happier, lower divorce rate, more marital satisfaction. I tell men all over the world, if you want to do something for your wife tonight, no flowers. Do laundry. Do dishes. Your wife will be happier, and I mean it. Importantly, and this is so important for what we'd consider Generation Y or millennial men, the men who are here in school, your children depend upon your involvement. Anywhere in the world, at any income level, at any education level, no matter how active a mother is, the #1 thing you can do to improve outcomes for your children, happiness, educational attainment, professional success, is have an active father. More active fathers change their children's lives. Now, it may seem very far away for you, but this will happen sooner than you think. I want you to know that I know how implausible it seems that this can change. And I get that I'm an American woman standing here talking about the construction and the breakdown of work in Turkish families. But I know how important this is, not just for women, but for you. And I've seen this change in 1 generation. My grandmother in New York City didn't drive. It was perfectly legal for women in the United States to drive. All of her friends drove. But she didn't drive because my grandfather didn't think women should drive. And I grew up in a very traditional household. My father worked outside the home. My mother made dinner. My father wanted it hot. It was hot. And it changed. It changed in 1 generation. So I really believe this can change. I tell women, so my message to all the women here is, date whoever you want. Don't marry the wrong guy. When it comes time to get married, ask the real questions. Are you going to support my career? A woman named Sarpol, who's the CEO of Vodafone for the entire EMEA and Africa region, wrote the foreword to my book in Turkish. And in that foreword, she talks about it wasn't just her own initiative. It was the support of her father, her husband, and her male bosses and colleagues that got her to where they are. I really believe that we can do this. The Lean In conversation is happening all over the world. Along with the book, I started a foundation. I hope you come check us out, leanin.org, or you can find us on Facebook, not surprisingly. We're helping women and men form circles, and there are circles forming. We have them in 200 university campuses. I hope they'll form here. Groups of any group, 10 people, 12 people, men or women, who agree to come together once a month to support each other as they lean in for their own lives. I just had a chance to meet with some of the amazing women from Istanbul who are forming circles here. We now have over 13,000 circles in 50 countries. This is spreading so quickly because it changes people's lives. And importantly, men have to be a full part of this. This won't change with women alone. So I want to end by asking everyone here a question. Because I want to ask you, how are you going to lean in? At Facebook, we have these red posters all over the world that are our culture. One of them says, move fast and break things. One of them says, fortune favors the bold. One of them says, done is better than perfect. And my favorite says, a very simple question. It says, what would you do if you weren't afraid? So for every woman here, take a minute and ask yourself that question. How are you going to lean into your own life, to your own goals? Without prohibition, without seeing the barriers, without seeing the constraints, how are you going to lean in? What would you do if you weren't afraid? Take a minute and think about it. And for every man here, which side of this will you be on? Will you have an equal household? Will you have an equal workplace? What kind of partner, what kind of husband, what kind of father, what kind of colleague will you be? What are you going to do to help make the world more equal for women? How are you going to lean in? Take a minute and think about it. I believe we can do this if we all lean in together. Thank you. So I'll take questions. It can be on Facebook, it can be on business, it can be on Lean In, and also any comments anyone has, just love to hear them.
Like, if you like, we can take the questions first, like the questions we took before,
Yeah,
because like those students are already here.
Okay, well maybe they can ask them.
Yeah, they'll ask them.
Okay,
Like I
great.
can just read their names and they
Perfect.
just ask it, and then
That's
like we
great.
can take other questions.
That's great.
So İrem Sorguç, Business Administration. So İrem had a question for you.
Yeah.
Hi, Sheryl. Firstly, thank you for coming in our university. We are excited to see you in here. My name is İrem Sorguç. This is second year in Business Administration program. And my question is about woman leader. If you were to count to the characteristics of a successful woman leader with 3 adjectives, what would they be and why?
I think the 3 characteristics of a successful woman leader. 1 is self-confidence, believing you can do things. And this is true for men too. The second is not waiting to be self-confident, so sitting at the table or raising your hand. Because if we wait to believe we can do something to do it, we'll never do it, even for me. I still sit at tables I feel like I don't belong at, and I know that needs to change. And the third is harnessing the power of those around you. Great leaders make other people better. Weak leaders make other people worse. Great leaders operate from strength, believing that if they let people have open and free voice, people will follow. Weak leaders clamp down on voice because they are worried that if people speak openly and freely, they won't be followed. The way we run Facebook is really interesting. Mark and I run the company together. We sit at open desks. We have no offices. Anyone can walk up and talk to us. We run a Friday Q&A. Every single Friday, we do an open Q&A, question and answers for the company. Anyone can ask us any question. When people disagree with us, they stand up and say it, they come by, they post it on Facebook and just openly disagree. And we always thank those people. I gave a talk, it was really interesting. I gave a talk to an infrastructure group at Facebook. And I was talking about how I wanted to open infrastructure offices in different parts of the world. This particular case was in Eastern Europe. And then I asked the group what they were most afraid of. And one guy stood up and said, I'm most afraid of an infrastructure team in Eastern Europe, and here's why. Not this part of Europe, different part of Europe, not Turkey. And he explained it. And he basically stood up and told me I was wrong in front of 200 people. And what I did was I thanked him publicly. I posted the story to the entire company, thanking him for speaking up to me. And then I told the story at Q&A. So I wanted him to get as much praise as possible for standing up to me. because I want to encourage those voices. Because the problem with becoming a leader is that if you're not careful, everyone will tell you exactly what you want to hear. You were great today, really. And then you stop getting better. So those voices, harnessing those voices, giving people real power to speak is so important.
Okay, so we have a question from Mustafa Gökcan Kösen. Mustafa, where are you? Okay, so Mustafa is at the International Relations and Psychology Department. He's a double major student. Yes, please.
First of all, welcome to our university.
Thank you.
I was really impressed your interview yesterday with Cüneyt Özdemir in CNN Türk. And I wanna talk about something like, as you know, that we are living in a patriarchal society, you know, and this patriarchal society has really disadvantages to women, such as like history it's itself a patriarchal word. Why it's not her story, you know? And you are unordinary people for doing that, something like the CEO of the Facebook, you know. And I want to ask that, do you recall any bitter experience in your workplace? If so, how did you react that? And how was your psychology influenced that reaction, you know? Thank you very much.
Yeah, so my book is filled with those stories. There are many. There was one recently. I went to a dinner, very senior dinner, so 10 people, very senior guest of honor, 2 women, myself and one other, and the man who was the guest of honor, he spoke the entire time. And so in order for anyone else to say anything, you kind of had to interrupt. And so one by one, all the men kind of interrupted, and then I did the same thing. He listened to them, but when it was me, and this is me as Facebook COO, he literally put his hand like this close to my face. He didn't touch me, but it was close. Let me finish. And then another couple of men interrupted, he let them, and then the other woman interrupted, and he put his hand like this. Let me finish. You people shouldn't interrupt. And I really felt bad. I mean, I was really upset. I called Mark. I was like, this is so upsetting. And it made me feel like I didn't belong at that dinner. And then I thought about it, and I was like, wait a second. I'm not the problem. He's the problem. And as women, that happens to us pretty frequently. Women get interrupted more than men. Men get promoted over us. And the question is, are we going to internalize that as our weakness, or are we going to understand that someone else's?
Okay, so we have Erhan. There is Erhan Öker. Yeah, he's again a business administration and economics student, right? Yeah, please.
Hi, my name is Erhan Öker. I'm at second class in this university. And thank you. I would say welcome our university. And my question is about you, especially what kind of a family and environment were you raised in? Do you think that environment plays a considerable role in who you are now?
Do I think what plays a considerable role? What's the word?
Role in who you are now.
What? I'm sorry. Do you think that what plays a considerable role?
In who you are now.
The family.
Family.
Yeah,
oh,
family.
yeah. Sorry, I missed it. Yeah, of course. Of course. I mean, you look at the women who succeed, they have fathers who tell them they can. You look at the women who don't, they have fathers. The role fathers play and mothers play is just hugely important across the board.
And we have İrem Topçuoğlu, Media Communication Systems student. She's our student, yeah, from our department, yeah. Please, İrem.
Hello again. You are working in an important position in one of the most important and successful companies in the world. And in your path, what was really difficult for you as a woman leader in relationships or friends or family?
So one of the things that women face that men don't face is the assumption that we can't, quote, do it all. No one ever asks men if they can do it all. Everyone assumes men can have families and careers, but with women, we're always asked that. I asked this question yesterday to the speech I gave to men in the workforce. I'll do it again here, using you as the experiment. If you're a man who works, raise your hand if anyone's ever said to you, should you be working? Should you be working? I've never gotten a hand, right? If you're a woman who's working, raise your hand if anyone's ever said to you, should you be working? Should you be working? happens all of the time. We have these assumptions that men can do both and women can't, and a lot of women need to work. And our economies are stronger when women work. And so facing that assumption and saying to yourself, I can, is so important. I was just with some amazing women, some of whom are still here, who are forming an Istanbul Lean-In Circle, talking to them about their lives, and those questions come up all the time. Some of their parents think they should get married already, right? My parents did too. It led to my first divorce, hopefully my only divorce. But I got married way too young. I was 24, it didn't work for me. You know, some of them have, you know, husbands who think they should or shouldn't complete their degrees. I mean, we all face these issues, and believing that we can make our own destiny and fulfill our own dreams is so important.
Okay, so Elçin Önüç, yeah, please.
Hi, Sheryl. My question was originally business related, but I think this is more crucial. How do you find your vision about women in career relates to those women who are struggling with their basic rights in the third world countries?
So the universal experience of women is really compelling. And I think all of these things are connected. I believe that if more women ran countries, more women would have basic rights. There has never been a country that has a woman leader that denies women the right to drive or the right to vote. It's not possible. I believe that if we treat women as the fully equal and powerful citizens they are, they will have equal rights. It's been interesting to see Lean-In circles form, because they haven't just formed in the cities of Beijing and Istanbul and New York. They've formed in Africa, in some rural areas. They've formed in places you wouldn't expect it, because that universal desire for full protection under the law, for equal rights, exists everywhere.
Okay, I think now we can open the floor for other questions.
And you can ask about anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for coming. I think this book, as a communication of all these upper middle class women concerns and experiences, does not really reflect the experiences of local human majorities in most of the countries. Maybe I'm not right in this sense, but do you think that your experiences as a person who is leading these one of the most popular websites in the world resonate or give voice to those local women who face extensive violence and maybe face structural preventions, I mean, in their everyday life? When they read your experiences, do you think that they will feel what you are giving to them?
So,
thank you very much.
Yeah, as one person, of course, my experiences is not the same as others. I'm American, I work in a business. I obviously have, you know, opportunities others don't have. But I really encourage you to read the book, because I think if you read it, you'll find in there how universal the experience is. One of the things that made me write the book, and I write about this in it, is I met Lima Bowie. Actually, the night before she won the Nobel Prize, and she won the Nobel Prize for helping to lead the women's revolution, which overthrew the government of Liberia. And I did a book party for her in my living room, California. And she was asked by these, you know, middle-class American women, you know, leading American businesswomen who have a lot of resources, what can we do to help women who are struggling in the fields of Liberia? And I expected Lima to say, you should give money, you should go protest at the UN, but that's not what she said. She said, more women in power. She said, more women in power in your Senate, in your government, more women in power in your businesses. We need a leadership change in the world for women, because we will never get to equal rights for women unless there are more women in positions of leadership. And so I deeply believe that there's no one solution to the struggles, and I deeply believe that the struggles of the women that are living in the fields of Africa, or that are, you know, the subject of honor killings and the terrible things that happen to women all over the world, those are connected. They're not the same as an American businesswoman faces, but a world that was run half by women would change those things, and that's how we're going to get there. Deeply believe this. Yeah.
So firstly, thank you for coming to Turkey. I wanted to ask, firstly, I wanted to say I hope that you do return to politics.
Mikey, just kidding.
I wanted to say I hope you do return to politics at the Treasury or elsewhere in the United States. And then I had a question on this new generation of billionaire philanthropists that we're seeing, yourself included, Omidyar, Gates, Buffett, to name a few. I'm wondering what it is now that's happening in the world that we have a new generation of incredibly successful business people. They're choosing to give back either through women's rights or through African health, microfinance, etc.
So I'm not a great historian of philanthropy, so I don't know what happened. But I think what happened is that in the past, people that became really financially successful were often way older because it just took longer. So you look at the resources of someone like Mark Zuckerberg, he's 29. That didn't happen in the past. And so I think, you know, increasingly people like Mark is very philanthropic, I'm very philanthropically focused. I think understanding that you can't wait. The goal is not to work, you know, amass whatever resources you're going to have and then give them away when you're 70. That's not going to work because the world needs us now. And so I think people who feel like the businesses they work at have changed the world really want to impact the world in other ways. I think Mark and I take very seriously kind of the opportunity we have. He's very focused on education and immigration issues in the United States. I'm very focused on women all around the world, but we recognize that we have a really unique opportunity and we don't want to let decades pass before we use it. So we do both. And sometimes people say, how can you do both? We do both. And I think that really matters. Yeah, we'll pass the mic right there. Go ahead. Definitely keep it.
That's my husband. Keep it from him.
Oh my God. Definitely keep it.
Hello. I was thinking about women are said to be emotional. So do you think that it will affect the leadership styles of women? Today with my coworker I had a conversation and he said that women could be not bad but
too emotional.
Leaders, yes, because they can make their decisions by their emotions, their relationships. Do you think it has an effect?
Yeah. So it's very interesting. Two kind of separate thoughts that combine to this. One is that is one of the historical reasons women shouldn't have been empowered. Don't let a woman have her finger on the atomic bomb. She'll press it when she's in a bad mood. We see no evidence of that. We see no evidence of women who are in leadership positions being too emotional. In fact, we see that people who are working with senior women, those companies have better outcomes, not worse. Those countries often have better outcomes. So we see no evidence of that. The second is that one of the most common misperceptions of my book, there are several, but one of the common ones is I'm telling women to be just like men. Lean in means buck up, don't ever have kids, ignore your kids, right? Like just be just like a man, be tough like a man. That's not it at all. If you read my book, I talk about crying at work. This got reported in the US press everywhere as Sheryl Sandberg cries on Mark Zuckerberg's shoulder. Could not have been further from the truth. I don't want, but I've cried at work, and I've admitted that. I leave work at 5:30 to have dinner with my kids, and I've said that publicly. I got flowers from a stranger saying it was helpful. The general counsel of Yahoo years ago called me and said, everyone in my department is now leaving at 5:30. Thank you very much. They all walked up to me and were like, Sheryl Sandberg leaves at 5:30. I'm out of here. But I think we can be our full selves. I think we can be mothers and great professionals. I think we can be emotional and use that emotion appropriately to do our jobs.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was just going to say something that's sort of connected to this, actually pretty well connected to this, that the idea of being a mother and a professional is an idea, but no one ever, as you said before, talks about being a father and professional.
Yes.
All of the senators in the Senate now are fathers.
Correct.
No one ever says, like, how do you manage being a father and a professional? And I'm wondering to the extent to which, like, the sort of upper echelons of executive structures in companies have been male-dominated for so many years that sort of a male culture has been created, and gender-specific cultures like that tend to be kind of weird and stupid. And so I think, like, we have to also be very careful not to privilege this existing male culture and let the women that are now coming into this echelon influence that culture, and for men to not be afraid of, like, learning from these women who are coming into these positions of power.
Yeah, I mean, I love that and really agree. In the United States, 4% of the parents who are full-time in the home are men. Here it's even lower. It's basically no one. But 4% is not really that high and not that different from 0. I do think finding your voice as a female business exec or a female government official is hard. It took me a long time to speak out as a woman. I spent most of my business career never speaking about gender. I mean, you don't say you're a woman at work because someone might notice you're a woman. Or the person across from you will think you're whining or asking for special treatment, or in the United States about to sue them. And so you don't talk about gender. And I think the process for me of asking myself what I would do if I wasn't afraid was that I would find my voice on women. And it's only in the last 4 years I've spoken out.
So, do you think, like, there was any, like, feeling of, like, you were betraying the class of people that you were joining? Like, now you're in the club, so shh, don't talk about any of this stuff, or,
Yeah, that is a very... There was a lot of debate around my book. Some of it's thoughtful, some of it's not. One of the most thoughtful things anyone wrote is someone actually wrote, she's a traitor to her class. It's interesting, right? She's a traitor. The system works for her. Why is she trying to change it? It is unusual. It is unusual to have a woman in work or a business person try to dramatically change a structure that benefited them. But I do think that's what needs to happen, and I think more and more people are doing it. This is not just me. There are more and more people, men included, who are saying, I want to be a good father too. There are men, John Chambers at Cisco, Bob Moritz at PwC, running these huge international conglomerates who have stepped out and said, we're going to do this because I want to be a great father and because it's going to make my business more successful, because we're going to attract the best talent from all over the world. So I think it's a great point. Yeah.
Hello, I'm Güney. Thanks for coming, first of all, and I would like to thank to my university, as they're already bringing a lot of huge names, and it's quite a rock star in Turkey when it comes to bringing such famous people. It was interesting because I was just going to talk about one of the inspiring people that I know for my own life, and the questions were apparently taken before, and it was interesting to observe that most of them were studying business, and this is what happens to me personally in my life, because I'm studying comparative literature, and I'm active, and I'm kind of interested in startups and involved in a way, and every time I have a conversation with somebody about startups, and they say, okay, so you're studying comparative literature, and where does this startup interest come from? And then until 2 years ago, which was the time when I heard about Jessica Livingston, the founder of Y Combinator, I literally had no answer, like concrete answer. I was like, well, it's just an interest, and then I figured that she actually had studied English in her youth, and then now she's a quite successful woman and one of the inspiring people. So now I have an answer to give to everybody, which is good, and she's one of the role models in my life. Well, first, I would like to go to that Turkish language issue. That like we gave women the right to vote and to be elected as well, like one of the first countries. And also one thing you didn't mention, which is I think more important, is that we don't have he or she in our language, which is one of the rare languages, including Hungarian and Finnish, as far as I know. But when it comes to sexism and like the gender issues, for instance, countries like Sweden and Norway, they're far ahead than the rest of the world. But there's a sociological background that makes it easier. I mean, I know the history. Vikings, of course, again were men leading, but then again, women were as initiative takers, and you can even watch that from this series. But when it comes to Turkey, what do you think would be an indicator, like game changer when it comes to sexism and gender issues? I mean, my answer would be, of course, people like you, especially if they happen to visit Turkey more often, or like countries like Turkey, who have struggles regarding this, that would be better. But I don't see in short term how we can fix this apart from like more constructive solutions than you yourself existing here right now. And second question is regarding Facebook. Since 2011, I've been hearing that the young people are actually going away from Facebook. And I've even heard a number of 11 million people basically freezing their accounts, if that's not wrong. Probably not wrong, right? Yeah, okay, good to verify that here. I think it was on TechCrunch. What do you think is the reason for this? Because you mentioned this one question that they asked you.
Yeah, I'll take the second first, just because it's recent. So if you look at the growth for Facebook, we're continuing to grow all over the world, and we're continuing to grow in all the demographics. Turkey is actually a really exciting country for us. 91% of the people on the internet in Turkey use Facebook, and 60% of those come back every day. Our average usage around the world is 20%. We get 20% of people's digital time, which is enormous, a lot. We're bigger than the next 10 or 7 combined. In Turkey, we get 25%, so we get a huge amount. I think as social media is exploding and there are new products, there's Twitter, there's Snapchat, there are all these other things, people talk about how, oh, people aren't using Facebook anymore, but it's not true. Our numbers continue to grow. Turkey, again, is particularly exciting for us because we're really heavily penetrated, but only 49% of the country is on the internet. And your internet numbers and your smartphone numbers are exploding. And all of those people join, and they join Facebook immediately. So there's a lot of growth, and that's really exciting. To your second question, I want to dispel one myth, which is, let's talk about Norway for a minute. People often think that gender issues are different in countries, and they are, or different in industries, and they are. Norway is probably the most advanced country in the world when it comes to legal protections for women. They have 40% quotas for their boards. They have 40% quotas for their parliament. Do you know how many women run their big companies? 3.4%, less than Turkey. So, I think that should show you that whatever's possible there is possible here. In many ways, you're ahead. And so, to the answer of what to do, I think this is individual action. As individuals, we can wait for the system to change, or we can take action. This is about every woman that gets hired as a professor in this university. This is about every girl or woman that graduates from this university. This is about how you treat your colleagues when you join the workforce. And this is about how you treat your wife or partner when you have one. And that's how this changes. It changes person by person, stereotype by stereotype, opportunity by opportunity.
Well, I think we can just take one more question.
One more?
Sheryl.
Yeah, well, we're going to take hers because she raised her hand last time. Is that okay?
Hi, Sheryl. I want to ask, I remember you said the story in TED Talk about your kid while you're living for the talk. I want to ask you how it changed right now. How do they support you with the trips, book, and talks?
So I have an 8-year-old son and a 6-year-old daughter. And traveling as much as I do is hard. It's why when I'm home and in town, I go home for dinner. I take them to school in the morning, and I'm home for dinner at 6, which is something that I didn't think I could do and keep my job, but I did, and it's working. What I try to do is explain how important it is. So because they're in school right now, I couldn't take them here, but I took my children to Japan and Korea for my book launch this summer. And they went to my speeches. And they believe in this. And so they know why I'm here, and they know I'm doing something important for the world, hopefully, or trying. And I think they believe in it too. And so they say things like, come home, mommy, but go do some good. And I want them to see that example. There's a lot of studies in the United States and around the world about what happens to children when mothers work full time. And I think as mothers, I write about this in my book, we feel guilty. There's no data to suggest that children are harmed. In fact, there's some strong data to say that daughters are better off if they have a mother working because they see the example. And so I think really the problem is not with my children, the problem is with me. And do I limit myself, or do I believe that I can be a good mother and a good professional?
Thank you. Yeah, I think that will be it. Thank you.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
I really appreciate
we'll all start leaning in and we'll start
Exactly.
leaving work at 5:30. So.
Correct.
And we have a small gift for you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So this is a vase. Like
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's very heavy. So let's just.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
So it's because our university is located in Haliç, the Golden Horn. So this is a Golden Horn vase to remember us by.
Thank you. It's beautiful. Yeah, I want to look at it.
Okay, so just like we move a step further. The picture is the important part.
Thank you so much.
Thank
It's
you. Thank
beautiful.
you again.
I don't want to break it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
This is great. So.